Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to Cage Free Voices Radio, an innovative educational entertainment radio show where youth and young adults, and also adults, have the opportunity to see themselves even if the world is blind. I am your host, Bathsheba Smithen, CEO and founder of Cage Free Voices. Well, I am quite excited today about the experts we have here with us, not necessarily in the building, but in the virtual building. I'm really excited about having these three experts here with us today to discuss discuss the United Nations General Assembly Conference this year that is on this Wednesday, this week. And we're really excited to have them with us. And I think I'll start off with the president and founder, the president of the Journalists and Writers Foundation. The Journalists and Writers Foundation is hosting this conference. They put on this conference every year. And so thank you guys so much, Mehmet, Jim Ray, and Sasha, for being with me here today. Could you say something to the people?
Yes, hi everyone.
Hi, welcome.
Greetings to you all. Thank you for having us.
Okay. So Mehmet Kilik is the president of the Journalists and Writers Foundation, dedicated to the advancement of peace, human rights, and sustainable development. With over 20 years of experience in strategic planning and leadership in global affairs, public relations, and the nonprofit sector, Mr. Kilik pioneered educational and social responsibility projects in collaboration with local governments, private sector, and the civil society organizations. As a founding member of the Peace Islands Institute, he established the Center for Global Affairs that held Ambassador Series discussions, which hosted ambassadors and diplomats accredited to the United Nations with a focus on Africa, South Asia, and the Balkans. We also have with us Jim Ray Alker. And Jim Ray Alker is the UN representative and the US director of the Journalists and Writers Foundation, an international civil society organization dedicated to the culture of peace. She organizes international events for the implementation of the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and we'll talk more about that in this discussion, for a positive social change. Ms. Alker focuses on the social economic development, civil society participation, and advocates for women and children's rights. She is a facilitator in building global partnerships to implement projects that have an impact at the local level. Ms. Alker develops policy recommendations to the UN Commission on the Status of Women, CSW, and the UN Committee on the Rights of Children. She is also leading the UNGA Conference for Journalists and Writers Foundation, an annual international event that gathers civil society organizations with the heads of member states and UN agencies to create a platform for the successful implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. We also have with us Sasha Butler. She is a dynamic leader who leverages her 20 years of experience advocating for quality education, positive social change, and economic development opportunities for women and youth. Ms. Butler is the president of In Excellence Consulting, Coaching and Training Solutions, LLC, an executive director at Changing Destinations, Journey to Excellence, Inc., a nonprofit organization that focuses on leadership and global citizenship education. She is currently serving a 2-year appointment with the World Council on Intercultural and Global Competence as the coordinator for Intercultural Competence and Community-Based Global Learning Connections Working Group. Ms. Butler's expertise includes intercultural and global competence, diversity, equity and inclusion, program and curriculum development, global education consulting. She is a highly sought after certified John Maxwell speaker, trainer, and coach who inspires her clients to reach their full potential by teaching them how to align their thinking and actions with their goals. Welcome, everyone. I'm ready to dive right in. So since we're talking about the United Nations General Assembly Conference that's held by the Journalists and Writers Foundation, I thought it only right to start with Jim Ray and Mehmet. Either one of you can jump in. Talk to us about the Journalists and Writers Foundation. How did it come about, and what is the overall mission and vision for the organization?
Bashiba, first of all, I want to thank you for inviting me to the Cage-Free Voices Radio. It is a great pleasure and honor for me to be with you and with other experts here. Let me just provide you with a brief information about the Journalists and Writers Foundation and our mission and vision. The JWF is an international civil society organization which is dedicated to the cultural peace, human rights, and sustainable development. We promote diversity and inclusion by creating forums of intellectual and social engagement. We generate and share knowledge with all stakeholders. We build partnerships worldwide and develop policy recommendations for positive social change. Well, we are based in New York City, but of course, our programs and activities go beyond New York City and the United States. That makes us a global organization. We have a particular focus on the UN Sustainable Development Goals, which includes 17 goals and 169 targets. And so we believe in partnership, which is one of the most important elements of the SDGs. And we know that no one can achieve these goals by itself. It requires partnerships, collaboration, and communication to achieve these ambitious goals by 2030. And maybe last but not least, the civil society in particular plays an important role to achieve sustainable peace and development. Therefore, we need a bottom-up approach to sustainable peace and development by engaging civil society organizations, community centers, faith communities, the business sector, higher education institutions, including women, men, the youth, to contribute to the implementation of the SDGs at the local, national, and global levels. Maybe my colleague Jim can talk more about our programs and activities.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you, Bathsheba, for the invitation once again. It's a pleasure to be here. And to add on, JWF has an association with the United Nations Department of Global. And is my voice okay?
It was kind of going in and out, was making a funky noise, but I think you're fine now.
No problem. So we align our projects in regards to the association that we have with the UN Department of Global Communications with the UN's development agenda. So our purpose is to contribute to the successful implementation of the SDGs in both local and global level. And among the goals, it's a very diverse agenda, but we primarily focused on 5 of the goals. Number 4, quality education; 5, gender equality; 10, reduced inequalities; 16, peace, justice, strong institutions; and of course, lastly, 17, partnerships for the goals. And besides the UNGA conference that we'll move on to discuss further, we also organize a series of panels and events on the occasion of the Commission on the Status of Women. And we create platforms for the aim of sharing best practices on the thematic international UN days that we focus on. And lastly, maybe I should mention, we also have great youth empowerment programs like the ones that we recently concluded, media and communications webinars for young professionals.
Thank you so much, Jim Ray and Mehmet. So Sasha, we do this work to positively change the destinations of youth and people all over the globe, which is why I simply love the name of the organization you spearhead, Sasha. The name of the organization alone speaks for itself, but talk to us more about its mission, vision, and purpose. What programs are made available through Changing Destinations, and how do you all work together with the Journalists and Writers Foundation?
Well, thank you for asking that. And once again, It's a pleasure to be here, to be among some friends and colleagues, and to work collaboratively. My heart is always with collaboration. And when we focus on the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, we do focus on quality education as our core. But we do know that partnerships is vital to the success of what we do. And basically, our mission is to equip youth locally and globally to thrive as leaders and global citizens. We want them to impact their local communities, and we want them to actually take those results and impact the world. And so what we do is we equip them. Now, you see, when you think about our vision, we envision a world where youth are prepared to lead with confidence in diverse communities, motivated to actively seek innovative solutions to improve the world around them. And we give them the skills and knowledge needed to be highly effective global citizens. That is what we do. That is what we love to do. Our programs are designed to bring that into fruition. What we do is we work closely with organizations within our own community, and we go in and we try to find out what are they doing and how can we enhance what they do and how can we add that global citizenship piece to it so that these youth are equipped and prepared. We also collaborate with organizations, schools, universities, businesses, the media and military internationally. We try to focus on as many continents as possible. And we try to connect the youth locally with the youth globally, because see, the 2030 goals are just a short time away, and people like me will be retiring. So my desire in my heart is that these youth, by the time I sit down, they're prepared and they're already coming up with decisions today. We don't want to wait till tomorrow. We want them to have innovative solutions for today. And our programs are geared around that. We do global academies, we do innovation labs, we go into the schools and do workshops and a number of things to get them going. And we try to work with the Journalists and Writers Foundation on these things. Last year, we had a wonderful opportunity to have youth compete, to come to the UNGA Conference, and to actually have an opportunity to share the stage with world leaders. One of our youth, Vincent Tucci, was actually on the stage, and he was able to give his vision for what he felt was needed in society to make this world a better place. And so as a partner, as a global partner, we come alongside of them to try to make sure the vision that they have to also work through the 17 sustainable goals are happening on our end. We reach out into our regional area as well as our global area, and we encourage people to participate. A lot of people are not always aware of what's going on and how they can make a difference. And so we come alongside Journalists and Writers Foundations to make that happen.
So those of you who are watching this, please put your comments or your questions in the chat. And I know one of the questions that may arise, either one of you can answer this question, is was more of a statement / question. Could one of you unpack the definition of global citizenship? If I'm a young person listening to that, what does that mean for me? Anybody can
Sure,
jump
I'll jump in. I was trying to, since I had the floor a second ago, I was one to yield to someone else, but really understanding what it means to be a global citizen. It is the awareness that you are part of a bigger society, is understanding that what impacts you locally really does have a global impact. Maybe not today, but maybe tomorrow. And so what we try to do with young people is help them understand that they must take an active role in making sure that their local community and their global community is a better place. And if they see injustice, or they see there needs to be a solution for a problem, we want them to take the initiative to make a difference, because this is their world and they're responsible just as much as we are as adults.
That's good. And I love when we played the game from your summit, Sasha, where you had that as one of the questions, and just to see the number of responses of people as to whether or not they were able to answer that question. So I think it's really important for people to be informed in terms of what that actually means so they can participate. So now I'm getting to you, Jim Ray. Given the current cultural climate, with there being a considerable amount of anxiety and fear looming in the air, what would you say are the major items on the agenda for the United Nations General Assembly session 75, right? How does the conference coincide with what's being discussed? I know there has been a great deal of conversation around the SDGs. Most people are not familiar with the Global Sustainable Development Goals. I know you made mention of them at the beginning. Could you provide more insight for those who are not well versed in this area and discuss ways we can work together collectively, locally, nationally, and globally?
Yes, sure. Yes, it is the 75th session of the General Assembly, and the sessions have already started, actually. It is also the 75th anniversary of the UN as well. So 2020 will surely be marked as historical with the pandemic and everything going on. And it is the first time in the history that actually heads of states are not here in New York, and they're delivering their keynote remarks online throughout the past week, this one, and the upcoming one. Yeah, just like you mentioned, there's a considerable amount of anxiety in the atmosphere of pandemic, but we are doing our best to combat with it all globally through our joint efforts in creating platforms to share our best practices in creating inclusive and peaceful societies for all. And I think UNGA Conference is surely a good example for that. It's a day-long conference. And I invite all of the listeners, everyone here, to visit unga-conference.org to review the topics. It's totally aligned with this year's General Assembly agenda as well. And please go ahead, register for the conference. It's upcoming on this Wednesday. And throughout the day, just like I said, these topics are also in the agenda of the UN. We'll be discussing women empowerment, gender equality. This year is also the 75th anniversary of Beijing Declaration, one of the most critical meetings that set the foundations for women's rights. And we'll be speaking on implementing Sustainable Development Goal 16, which is peaceful, justice, and strong institutions. And we will also be receiving a great video from you and your youth advocates that had created for this team. It's a great contribution to the conference. Taking the chance, I also congratulate you and your contributions to the UNGA as well this year. And lastly, at the end of our third session, we'll be discussing lessons learned from COVID-19, the evolving, changing social and economic empowerment, how we will be defining them. We have 21 distinguished speakers from 11 different countries. It's a global platform, and I invite everyone to take a part, engage in the discussions. It's a very user-friendly platform. You can forward your questions, comments, share your feedbacks on what the experts are saying, and the moderator will be sharing those at the live sessions. And this year is also the first 5 years of the implementation phase for Sustainable Development Goals, what we have been discussing. It's a global development agenda that put into action 5 years ago with the signatures of all the member states to the UN, and we have to participate in order to implement the goals. It's not only at the policy level, especially the youth has a very important role in the implementation phase. And the deadline is 2030, just like Sasha said, it's upcoming on the way. So time is flying by. We have to be active in every possible way. And the conference will also be reviewing our current process on the particular goals that we will be addressing. And maybe lastly, just to add on, I would strongly recommend everyone listening to us to visit the UN Department of Global Communications website and sign up for their weekly bulletin. It's a great resource, and they provide very credible information on the SDGs, some upcoming events open to public, and they also share information on how to contribute to the SDGs, both at personal and institutional levels. So maybe it might be a takeaway note from my part for today. If they can visit this great website, the Department of Global Communications, and look out for the resources, that'd be wonderful.
Awesome. And Jimray, if at the end of this, if you could provide me the link, I'll put it in the chat too.
Sure.
So Mehmet, talk to us about, because a lot of people are curious. I'm curious. How do you put on a conference of this magnitude? How do you bring a conference of of this magnitude into fruition. We're talking about bringing together countries and thereby different perspectives and ways of thinking. I mean, how did you all start? What's the history behind it all?
Well, thank you so much for asking this question, because it is about transformation. It's about going global. And the JWF is a unique story which I would like to share with you. The JWF was initially established in Turkey in 1994. Then the organization grew bigger and bigger with its programs and activities, as well as its scope and impact. So in 2012, the organization was accredited by the United Nations with ECOSOC consultative status. So this recognition by the UN was a cornerstone for the organization. Then the leadership formed a global team from New York, Geneva, Vienna, Addis Ababa, Nairobi, and Seoul to bring different perspectives on the challenges and to offer multiple solutions to the problems. Then in 2014, from a Turkish NGO, the organization was registered in New York State as a 501c, eventually moved its headquarters from Turkey to the US. So it was a brilliant move for the leadership to move the organization to New York, which is a global city. And then later on, in 2015, following the United Nations adoption of the SDGs, the JWF initiated the UNGA Conference as a platform for civil society and the private sector to participate in the UN General Assembly. Because at the UN, many people, they think about UN as member states, like 193 UN member states countries coming together to make decisions. But it is not true. So there is civil society and the private sector, higher education institutions, so many other stakeholders. So our goal with the UNGA conference is to develop strategic planning, create innovative policies, and facilitate the implementation of the SDGs for sustainable solutions. There is a beautiful African proverb, which is very meaningful, I would like to share with you. It says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. So as an organization, we really want to go far and we really want to go together. So that is why we decided to build partnerships among NGOs, civil society organizations, and the private sector across the globe. So we signed MOU agreements to share roles and responsibilities, share our human and financial resources, and also maximize our outcomes to make a difference in the society. So this is the idea. If something works here, then why don't we transfer that practice in other parts of the world with some changes based on the social fabric of the society? Then later on, of course, in 2019, we initiated the Pioneers in SDGs Awards to pay tribute to outstanding individuals and recognize organizations contributing to sustainable peace and development. We believe that promoting peaceful and inclusive societies, protecting human rights, the rule of law, and democratic values, empowering women, girls, youth for social justice and equal opportunities, play an essential role in achieving sustainable development goals worldwide. So what we do, we call on civil society organizations to join us, to become a global partner, but at the same time submit their projects, which will serve as an exemplary model in inspiring others towards the positive social change. So, ending my words, I think we believe that, greater involvement and engagement to lead a transformative change for sustainable development. So it has to be people-centered and planet-friendly for a shared global progress that expand our vision and facilitate the timely implementation of the SDGs. So I think our motto, and it's the motto for the UN and for many countries, we don't want to leave anyone behind. So we have to work together, and we have to put our efforts together to make a positive social change and improve the quality of life in our local environment.
So I have one more follow-up question for you, Mehmet, and then I'm coming down there to you, Sasha. What would you say has gotten JWF to this point, and what can stakeholders expect from the UNGA conference and anticipate in the foreseeable future?
This conference is organized by 35 NGOs from 24 different countries. So it's a great opportunity for organizations and individuals to network, to learn about best practices, and at the same time to build collaboration. Sometimes, we have organizations that work on the same topic in the same country that they don't really know about each other. So once we bring these civil society organizations together, who has the same mindset, who wants to contribute and dedicate their efforts to make a difference in Africa, Asia, Americas, any part of the world. It could be on a towards improving the lives of the people, or it could be towards climate change, or now it's pandemic, coronavirus. So why not we get together, put our minds together, put our resources together, and then deliver the solutions. And we can do it through partnerships. And then this conference delivers a conference which focuses on goal number 17, which is partnership for the goals. So I think, when people come to this conference, they will meet like-minded organizations who are, change makers. So we welcome everybody to join us, on Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m.
You can't help but win by attending, and you can't lose anything coming. So I would suggest that if you have an opportunity, if you have a free schedule on Wednesday, to attend the conference. And I want to segue into talking about young people attending this conference, and the importance and the significance of that. By coming around to you, Sasha, youth and young adult involvement is critical to a movement of any sort. When we look at the civil rights movement and major changes that happened in society, many of those leaders were young. Stokely Carmichael was only 19 when he participated in the 1961 Freedom Rides. Susan B. Anthony was only 16 when she began collecting petitions against slavery. And Vivian Thomas was 19 when he took a job as a laboratory assistant to Dr. Alfred Blaylock, which ended up leading to the invention of heart surgery. What is the role of women and youth in the UNGA conference and global citizenship overall? How does your organization promote the global sustainable goals, and in what ways can other organizations, parents, and schools do the same to keep youth as a part of the equation?
Excellent question, and so packed. I can unwrap this all day.
Well, so we can start off with the first part. What is the role of women and youth in the UNGA conference and global citizenship overall?
Well, they play a vital role. When you think about the Gen Zs, and you think about the millennials, and you think about all the different generations, the baby boomers, and you think about Generation X, the silent generation, every generation brings some unique ideas, some unique solutions to the playing field. What I try to do through my organization is I try to first challenge those of us who are on the other side of of life, heading towards settling down and making room for youth. And so I challenge them to give youth a seat at the table. So often there's a lot of pushback. A lot of people say youth are not doing what they're supposed to do, or youth are not listening, or youth are lost. But one of the things I say is that as adults, we must get back into the game. If we get out of the game, then there's no one to model for them. And so I tell organizations, I tell school districts whom I work with, I say, listen, you have a seat at the table. If there aren't any more seats, give up your seat and let that youth sit there. Of course, they will make mistakes, just like we make mistakes. I was only 19, going on 20, when I became the president of the Black Student Union for Manhattanville College. I had no idea at that time that I would be sitting here today, that I would be traveling around the world. My life, I try to model what is possible. Youth are into possibilities. If you show them the possibilities, they will rise to the occasion. And I tell them, if I can do it, the world was stacked against me. The odds were stacked against me because of my socioeconomic beginnings. But one of the powerful things was I did have a mother who gave me the power of the dream. So I take that power of the dream and I put it into real world ideas and world solutions. The best way to do that, I found, is those 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Because no matter what someone wants to do in the future with their life, if you want to be a doctor, then you can do health and well-being. If you want to go into education, quality education. If you want to deal with women's rights and equitable education for women and girls around the world, because that is such a challenge. Many girls do not have an opportunity to go to school. Most of them are required at a very early age, sometimes as early as 10, to go and start working and starting families if they're able to do so. And so it is very important that we fight for them, that we stand up for them. But first of all, that we help young girls here in America who have great opportunities realize that what they have is a privilege, and that they must also take up the banner and understand how they can make a difference. And so if they want to go into technology, and we tell them every goal, every one of those goals has thousands of careers in there. And it's a place where they can begin to explore things that don't even exist. The 17 Sustainable Development Goals are about what have we not thought about yet, because it's all about solutions. And so what we do with young people through our global academies and through our innovation labs is we teach them first, what are the goals? And we spend a lot of time having them understand the goals, dialogue about the goals, work on projects around the goals. And then we challenge them to come up with solutions. And we step back and we allow them to do that. In doing that, they're actually helping us solve the world problems and many of the problems that we have created. And so I think I believe very strongly that this conference is just a place where it all starts. The young people we brought about 12 young people last year. Do you know when they came back, they went back and they did a video and they talked about the conference. They talked about what they learned. They talked about who they met, all the different leaders. They had a chance to meet the grandson of Gandhi, and they had the chance to meet some athletes who are doing some great things. But they realized that when you do great things, sometimes there's a sacrifice, and you could be involved in sports and still have a heart for social change. And they took that back, and what it did for them was for them to begin to go into their communities and begin to make a difference. One of I mentioned earlier, Vincent Tucci, who was on the stage speaking last year about social interactions and how it's so important for youth to not isolate themselves because of technology. Well, this young man has gone on to do a number of great things. He's now at Hargrove Military Academy. He did so well in his exams and in the requirements to get into the academy, but he attributed all of those things to the fact that he was exposed to the United Nations General Assembly conference. And had that not happened, we don't know where he would be. We are so grateful that this is available and that people like Jim Ray Amendment has opened it up wide for youth to come and have a place and have a voice.
I think that's a perfect way to end. And parents, teachers, students, if you have any further questions, you can put them in the chat and I will definitely send those questions to the appropriate individuals or individual. So I just want to thank you, Mehmet, Jim Ray, and Sasha for joining us here today to discuss the United Nations General Assembly Conference. And I'm so in awe of the work that the Journalists and Writers Foundation continues to do, all the effort. I know you guys are exhausted. You have to be exhausted right now leading up to the conference. So we applaud you. We thank you. We thank you, Sasha, for the work that you do at Changing Destinations. I know you were up like 5 o'clock this morning. So where can people register for this conference? I know that it was mentioned earlier, but can we reiterate where they can register for the conference again?
Yes, they can visit the official website of the conference, unga-conference.org, and I have shared a couple links here for you, Bathsheba, for you to share. And they will be able to see the register button on the upper corner. When they click on it, it will automatically take them to Hopin, the virtual conference platform. And it's only a minute or so to register, to sign up, and they should be ready to go.
Awesome. Well, guys, you all have heard another episode of on Cage Free Voices Radio. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope to see you on Wednesday. Remember to see yourselves even if the world is blind. Reflect, connect, and transcend every internal and external barrier that will try to cage your voice. Remember, be cage free and come to the UNGA Conference. See you soon.